Section 3 and Section 4 I've combined together. They're both finding the amplitude and period of the sine and cosine function. Section 3 was the sine function, Section 4 was the cosine function. However, you do the same thing to find amplitude and period for both, so that's why I've combined them together. So in problems 1 through 6, it says identify the amplitude and period. We're not finding asymptotes for each function. So I've given you a couple things up here. Amplitude is the absolute value of A. Period is 2 pi over b. A is always in front of the sine or cosine. B comes after sine or cosine. So for problem 1, this is my A value. 3 is my B value. So to find amplitude, I'm taking the absolute value of 4, which is 4. My amplitude is always going to have a positive value because I'm taking the absolute value of it. Then to find the period, I'm saying 2 pi over b. My b value is 3. 2 pi over 3 cannot be simplified, so that is my solution. For problem number 2, notice there is no value in front of cosine, so therefore it's understood to be a 1. So my amplitude is going to be the absolute value of 1, which is just 1. My period is going to be 2 pi over b. In this case, my b value is 4. And I need to make sure that I simplify this fraction that I have here. So my answer becomes pi over 2 for period. Now in problem 3, my amplitude is going to be the absolute value of 1/3, which is just 1/3. And my period becomes 2 pi over pi. Pi is my value after my function. Now, since this is a tan function, we're not going to talk about tan functions. So I'm going to pretend like this is a sine function. So I'm going to name this 1/3 sine of pi over x so that we can still find the amplitude and period. So my pi values here cancel, so my answer is 2. Now also you're going to be asked to graph functions, but you're going to have your calculator to use. So a couple things that you need to remember when you put these in your calculator to graph. You need to make sure that you are in radian mode on your calculator. So on my mode function, I'm going to make sure that I am in radians, which I am. When I go to graph my function, I need to make sure that I press zoom trig so that I can see the function correctly. Then I need to adjust my window to make sure that I can see it from 0 to 2 pi. Also, if my function, let's say, had a theta, so 2 cosine theta, I would use an x in place of that theta. So let me show you how to graph number 1. So 2 cosine of x is what I'm plugging in. I need to make sure that I press zoom trig, which is number 7. Now notice when I graph my function, it looks like this, but I want to adjust my window. So my x minimum, I want to make that a -1. My x max, I want to make it a 3 pi. Most of the times in your directions it will say graph the interval from 0 to 2 pi. So I want to make sure that I put it on 3 pi so that I can see the 2 pi mark. So here's my function. If I need to identify where 2 pi is, I can press trace, and then I can type in 2 pi. So if it asks me to graph from 0 to 2 pi, I'm graphing from 0 to this portion here.